Hello, everyone. This is Bible Perspective. I am Brother Bolin. This is the channel where we analyze current events from a biblical and prophetic point of view. Thank you all for joining me once again. I know it has been a while, but I've been tied up in some things. But I'm so grateful to the Lord to be here today. Thankful for each and every one of my viewers and my subscribers. So in this video, I want to continue my discussion of the book of Revelations, end time events, and God's judgment upon the world. Now, I'm going to reiterate this good little brief review of what I'm going to be talking about in future videos. Once again, we're coming from the book of Revelation, and we're talking about end time events, and we're referring to events that have not occurred yet. Now, I am of the group that believe that the book of Revelation, starting at chapter 6 all the way to chapters 19, have not occurred yet. Now, you have some people that believe that right now we are in the book of Revelation, and that that many of the plagues that the book of Revelation talks about, many of the judgments that the book of Revelation talks about, is happening right now. I am not of that group. I am of the group that believe that chapter 6 to chapters 19 have not occurred yet. They're still future. And I have reasons, and I have various reasons that I'm going to get into why I believe that. I believe certain events have to take place first before all of these other events take place. I believe that what is going on right now in the world, not just America, but in the world, are preludes or events leading up to the book of Revelation, or the events that's going to occur in the book of Revelation. Certain things have to be set up in terms of a one world government, one world religion, and one world economic system. Certain things have to be set up for that to happen. When the Antichrist comes on the scene, he's not going to come on the scene and say, hey, okay, let me create a one world government, a one world economic system, and a one world religion. He's not going to do that. He's going to step, when the Antichrist steps on the scene and makes his appearance, the one world government, the one world economic system, and the one world religion will already be in place. And what we're seeing right now in geopolitics and the events going on in the world, I believe are things being set up to fulfill that prophecy in the book of Revelation. So when the Antichrist comes in, he's going to come into a system that's already set up for him. Since the world and the rulership of the world has been turned over into the hands of Satan, we know this happened in the book of Genesis when Adam and Eve disobeyed God and submitted to what Satan said. That rulership of the world and authority of the world was turned over into the hands of Lucifer, and now he rules this world. We, through Adam, basically, I just say Adam because he's the one. Adam was the representative of humanity, and the original purpose of God was that through Adam and Eve, okay, in this sense, his posterity, that's us, were to be the ones to rule the world during this time in perfect fellowship with God. We were to rule the world and have dominion over the world. Why? Because God gave that to Adam and Eve. He said, I'll give you dominion over the earth. You have dominion over the earth and dominion over the four-footed things and the beasts of the field. I'll give you dominion over it. When Adam disobeyed God, he turned that rulership over into the hands of Satan. So now Satan rules the world. Since Satan rules the world, the institutions of this world are influenced and controlled by him. Therefore, the institutions are set up in many different various ways to reflect Satan's worldview. And since Satan wants to be worshipped, and he wants control, and he wants to be worshipped, he's going to set up the institutions of this world to reflect that ideology, that worldview. So everything that is happening in government here in America, and governments around the world, in the United Nations, and the EU, European Union, and others, are all submitted to the spirit of Lucifer, if you will, to streamline everything towards what Satan wants. So by the time the Antichrist, which many believe to be the son of Satan, steps on the scene, he will step on the scene with an already prefabricated world made specifically for him to rule. He won't have to come in and try and start making things run the way he wants to run, at least for the most part. Okay, so that's what I believe. Now, with that being said, we already covered the first seal, the first set of seal judgments, at least some of them. We didn't cover all of them. We know that the first set of seal judgments, 7 seal judgments, the first 4 are called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Why? Because these 4 judgments are symbolized by 4 different horses. And these 4 different horses and riders on these 4 different horses symbolize a specific function that's going to take place during the first 3.5 years of the tribulation period. They're called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse because beings or forces will be riding upon these horses. Each one of these horses are given a different color. The first horse that we dealt with in our discussion, the color was white. The entity or the being riding upon this white horse is believed to be the Antichrist, the man of sin. That he will come with a bow with no arrow and with a crown and so forth, and a bow with no arrow, symbolizing that he will rule through diplomacy. We talked about him ruling through diplomacy. He's more than likely not going to rule through physical war, but he's going to rule through his ability to manipulate, to control, to give advice in a way that other world leaders couldn't touch. Won't be able to touch, rather. Okay? He will be a brilliant strategical leader. Brilliant. He basically will be a genius in so many ways. We talked about that. Okay? And he will bring peace on the earth. Now, there's other elements that go along with that. I mean, I could bring in the possibility of a UFO invasion. Yes, I said that. That's another thing that's pretty heavy. And I believe that the UFO concept that L.A. Marzulli talks about all the time, he's an expert in that field. I believe that that's going to be connected to the Antichrist himself and the one world government, but I'm not going to talk about that here, at least in this video. But I do believe there's a connection. I'm perhaps bringing that in later on. But at any rate, the Antichrist, yeah, he's going to be the one we talked about. We talked about the rider on the white horse being the Antichrist. And it's been believed to be by many scholars that he is the Antichrist, and I believe that as well. We talked about the possibility of the Antichrist upon the white horse, the possibility that he may be alive today. Is that possible? Yes. I have no clue whether or not he is or not, but it's possible. But that right now he's not able to make his entrance because it's not time. I believe, and I talked about this in the last video that we talked about in dealing with this series, is that I believe that the first event on God's prophetic timetable that must take place is the rapture. Now, I know that's controversial to a lot of people, but that's what I believe. And I've quoted, I use 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, where Paul talks about us being caught up in the air. Now, however way we want to look at that, he does say we're going to be caught up in the air. I mean, I don't know how else to translate that. It's what it means, caught up. It don't mean caught down, caught up. So what is he talking about? He's talking about ceasing, taken up into the air. I mean, what else can you say? Okay. But I believe that that's going to take place before the 7-year tribulation period. So as believers, what we should be looking for today, at least from in my personal humble opinion, is for Christ to return, to rapture us. That's what we should be looking for. We shouldn't be looking for the Antichrist. Okay, we should be looking for Jesus and him to make his triumphant return. Then after that, we'll begin the 7-year tribulation period. Now, having said that, we've learned all these things about the rider on a white horse, what it symbolizes. And once again, let me reiterate this too. The color white symbolizes peace, but it will be a false peace. People will be glad that this man came forth and offering all this peace and unity among the nations and all this. And people are going to probably just wipe their brow, and be like, oh, man, finally someone has come to save the day, to fix everything up. I mean, you think about this. It's something the Lord's given me too. You think about this, how the enemy is setting this up. Okay. You think about all these different presidents and leaders that we've had, but I'm going to speak specifically about the presidents. When I say presidents, I mean plural. And when I say plural, I don't mean just Democrats and I don't mean just Republicans. Both political parties, Democrats and Republicans, are preludes or setups for the arrival of the Antichrist. Now, I'm speaking specifically here about America, okay, and not other nations, because it is believed by some that the Antichrist will come from Europe, okay? But there are some that believe that the Antichrist will come through America, which could explain why Washington, D.C. is made up as like a pentagram. But I'm not going to get into the detail of that. Not in this video. That's a pretty deep video too. And if I talk too much about that, this video might be taken down. So I got to keep it hush-hush on some things, okay? But that could explain why Washington, D.C. is made up, designed as a pentagram. This happened in the the mid 17th century, when a French Freemason gave the outline and the platform to build Washington, D.C., and I forget exactly who he gave it to. I forget what president he gave it to lay out the design for Washington, D.C. It was specifically designed to reflect that type of Luciferian viewpoint. But however we want to look at it, the point is this: that some people do believe that the Antichrist is going to come through America rather than Europe, one of the nations in Europe. Well, however we want to look at it, the presidents of the United States, both Democrat and Republican, are preludes, I believe, to the Antichrist. Now, let's assume that the Antichrist is going to come forth from America. Then all the presidents, both Democrat and Republican, are preludes or previews, if you will, of the Antichrist, or they're leading up to the Antichrist. Why do I say that? Because it don't matter what political side you're on. If you're Democrat, if you're Republican, Democrats always tend to say that every Republican president that's gotten into office, he's the Antichrist. And they give their reason for it. Republicans and conservatives always tend to say that every Democratic politician that gets into office is the Antichrist, and then they give their reasonings for it. Okay? No one knows who the Antichrist is, whether you be Democrat or Republican, conservative or liberal or neutral. No one knows who the Antichrist is. Let's keep that straight, okay? But I will say this, in my personal, humble, spiritual opinion, and based on the things that I have read from people like Thomas Horn, who is brilliant in this analysis, that every president, Democrat and Republican, have been members of secret societies. I'm not going to get into the details of that. Have been members of secret societies. They have a nefarious plan, okay? And whether that's President Trump or President Biden or whoever, they all are connected. It's believed by many scholars and prophecy experts that these presidents from the past until now are all related and connected through what they call the 13 Illuminati bloodlines. Now, whether or not, look, man, we could debate about that all day, but this is what they say this is about. I mean, whether or not it's accurate, 100%, I don't know. I'm just telling you what they're saying, and I've read the information on it, and much of that information is very, very compelling. For example, they say Obama is connected to President Bush somehow. They related, which is weird, right? Because Obama is clearly black, but yet, Trump. Some have said Trump is a member of a secret society. I'm not going to say which one. What's going on here? I'm just saying, you know what I mean? It's a lot more to it than what we see on the surface level. But however we want to put it, I believe that these are all preludes to the Antichrist. But my point is, all these presidents, past and present, are preludes or leading up to the Antichrist. But however we want to put it, my point is simply this, is that whether or not the Antichrist is here or not on earth, we don't know. But I believe that the rider on the white horse is the Antichrist. He will usher in a period of peace, but it will be a false peace, a peace based on lies and deception And then eventually he's going to break that peace. Now, I know that introduction went longer than normal, but I wanted to bring us back up to speed before I deal with the rider on the red horse. Because things are going to get a little bloody now. Okay. But yeah, I wanted to bring everybody up to speed because we have not talked about this for quite some time. So I wanted to bring everybody back up to speed, bring back to remembrance some of the things that we talked about, and even introduce some new things that we haven't talked about in reference to the rider on the white horse. Okay, so now today I want to deal with the subject of the next seal judgment, which is the rider on the red horse. The rider on the red horse. And once again, we're going to be coming from our study aids will be Tim LaHaye's Revelation Unveiled. Great book. These are our study aids for the book of Revelation. And also John MacArthur's book of Revelation, book called The Time, Because the Time is Near. Both of these are brilliant commentaries and scholarly exegesis, if you will, of the book of Revelation. Okay, so now let's get right into the second seal judgment of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, the red horse. Okay, and this is what it says: when the Lamb opened the second seal. So this is what the Apostle John, once again, the Apostle John sees. It says, when the Lamb, which is a symbol of Jesus Christ, opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature, and we know that the living creatures were believed by many to be the seraphim that's around the throne of God. These are powerful, brilliant, awesome, creatures. They're not normally called angels, because angels in the Bible, both the Old and New Testament, the word in the Old and the Hebrew word and the Greek word in both the Old and New Testament refers to messenger. But these creatures, these living creatures, are not messengers. They don't send messages necessarily to humanity. So they're in a category completely different. The Bible calls them living creatures. So these are very powerful entities that are around the throne of God. And it says, I heard the second living creature say, come. But we know based on what I just read, that these living creatures are fulfilling the will of God, because it says, and I heard the second living creature say, come. It wasn't Jesus that said, come. It was one of the living creatures, the second living creature that said, come. So it says, then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make men slay each other. To him was given a large sword. This is Revelation chapter 6, verse 3 and 4. Now, this is very significant. We understand this. This is heavy. Remember what I said earlier, that the white horse, the rider on the white horse, symbolized by the Antichrist, will bring in what? A false peace. Right? Everybody going to be basically rejoicing. It's probably not going to be any war for any period. And I don't know how long this might be. I don't know how long this false peace might be. It may be a year after the rapture, 2 years after the rapture, 3 years after. I don't know. But at any point, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a certain extended period of peace on earth where people will relatively be happy that there are no more wars like we have now. Okay, all these wars that we're having now are previews or leading up to the great war known as World War III, but that's another story, and I digress. That's something in and of itself. A lot of people say, well, Iran, the situation with Iran, is it going to be World War III? Is President Trump creating World War III? No, I don't believe he's creating World War III. And in my personal opinion, I don't believe we're going to, at this point, initiate World War III. But I do believe that what he is doing in Iran is leading up to World War III. There will be a global war, a global thermonuclear war. There will be that. I believe that 100%. But I don't believe that Trump is trying to cause it. I do believe that his involvement in Iran alongside Israel is leading up to that ultimate global war. Okay? So I want to make that plain. But however way we want to look at it, there's going to be a period of peace on earth. But that peace is going to be short-lived because the other seal of judgment is loose. It's open. He says, then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make men slay each other. Now, I wanted to say this before I read the commentary on this from Tim LaHaye in his commentary on this verse. I want to quote another some words from someone else who made a very different, I won't say, well, yeah, it's a different commentary on this verse, or this phrase in this verse that talks about this writer having power to take peace from the earth and to make men slay each other. It was a man by the name of, what was his name? Oh, man. God, what's the man's name? I don't know. Forgive me, people. Wow. Sorry, apologize for that. Russ Dizdar. Some of you may have heard of him. He passed a few years ago to be on with the Lord. But Russ Dizdar, a very prominent pastor and leader, I think somewhere in the state of Ohio. But I'm not going to go into the details of what his purpose and mission was by God. I'm not going to talk about it in this video because it's very, very rough. I mean, but you have to be anointed by God to do what he did. That's all I can say. You have to be truly anointed by God to do what he did. But anyway, he states something that's very disturbing about this verse here. Now, Tim LaHaye, well, you know what? Let me read Tim LaHaye's interpretation of this, and then I'm going to get into Russ Dizdar's interpretation of men slaying each other. This is what Tim LaHaye says in his interpretation of this verse. He says, the red horse is obviously a symbol of war, for he has the ability to, quote, take peace from the earth and to make men slay each other. This is also evidenced by the fact that a great sword is given to him. Now, swords symbolize war, right? Obviously, in the Antichrist takeover of the world, some dissatisfied nations will have waited too long to make their play to avoid his domination. Yet, rather than remain slaves, they will revolt, thus inaugurating a world war. Although their attempts to throw off the shackles of the Antichrist will be unsuccessful, it is evident from the opening of the next seals that this will be a widespread and bloody war. And when we get to the next seal, you will find out exactly what Tim LaHaye is talking about, because the next seal is rough. A lot of people are going to die. Oh my God, Jesus, have mercy. But that's Tim LaHaye's interpretation of that verse. But going back to Russ Dizdar's interpretation of men being allowed, that peace will be taken from the earth and men will slay one another, Russ Dizdar digs a little bit deeper. He says that the phrase, the word slay in the original Greek, and I can't remember the Greek word he used, means to slaughter, to butcher or to slaughter or to butcher. So what what Russ Dizdar suggested wasn't so much that this peace taken from the earth would be the beginning of a war. That's a possibility, the beginning of a global war, and people when other nations don't want to submit to the Antichrist's rule and domination, so they will resist him, thus inaugurating a war. That could be a possibility, and it could be a possibility that war symbolized by the sword, it could be a reference or a symbol or a reference rather to war. That these nations don't want to go, they don't want to submit to the Antichrist. They're like, no, we want our autonomy. We're going to resist you, and they'll fight against him. Okay. However, another way of looking at it, as Russ Dizdar says, he says the Greek word for slay in this verse is the word butcher or to slaughter, and that the sword that this right on the red horse is holding is a small sword. It's not a long sword that's indicative of war. It's a small sword. That's what he stated, that the Greek word for the sword is a small sword designed for close encounter battles and fights, like close, like right up, okay? And what he was saying was that, this is something frightening. He says that the death and destruction and violence that people are committing here right on earth right now, people just, I mean, look at how crazy people are today. Let's be realistic. Keep it 100. Look at how crazy people are today. They will take your life at the drop of a hat. I mean, how many times have we seen the news, watched the news rather, where someone decides to, and I have to watch what I say here because the algorithms in the YouTube will flag me or whatever, okay? Delete. You know what I mean by delete. Take someone's life, okay? They will take. How many times have we watched the news where someone decides to take someone's life for some of the foolish, most craziest reasons out here? I mean, we have children, 12 years old, 12-year-old children, 12-year-old boys. How can I put it? Violating sex, violating young girls, 12 years old. Gangs of them. Sex violating young girls. This is absolutely insane and is becoming more and more commonplace. It's becoming more and more commonplace. But even though it is becoming more commonplace, there's still a level of restraint. We have not seen the full expression of evil in the hearts of humans, of unbelievers. We have not seen the full expression of it yet. According to Russ Dizdar way of looking at this rider on the red horse and how he interprets it, is that when peace is removed from the earth, people will be allowed to do whatever their dark hearts tell them to do. Whatever evil is in their heart, they will be given full reign to do so. That the living creature will loose this seal. The seal will be loosed, rather. At the breaking of this seal, rather, not the living creature will loose the seal, but Jesus is the one that's breaking the seal. Let me reiterate that. But when this seal is broken and this red horse comes forth, and it removes peace from the earth. Now, this is, and get this now, it will remove peace from the earth. It didn't say remove peace from America. It said it will remove peace from the earth, which means this slaughter will be global. People will be butchered and slaughtered on a global scale. It will be the most brutal, bloodiest level of bloodshed and horror your mind could. It will be worse than any movie you've ever seen. Okay? Now, I'm giving you the interpretation of Russ Dizdar. And I believe there's a lot of credence to what he's saying here. Because, and one of the reasons why I believe that is because, as I said earlier, what we're seeing today in society is absolute madness and insanity being loosed on a mass scale. People are taking people out for some of the craziest reasons. People today have no restraint. They have no self-control sexually. They have no self-control over what they say. They have no self-control over what they do. I mean, you're basically walking around on eggshells because you don't want to offend that person next to you because you don't know what they might do. This is the spirit of the age that we are living in right now. But what John the Apostle is seeing here is something that's going to take place in the future. And what's my point? My point is simple, that what we're seeing right now, the level of chaos, the level of death, the level of destruction that is taking place on a one-on-one basis between people, not nations committing acts of war, but between people, regular people, will be loosed full force when the rider on the red horse takes peace from the earth. And as Russ Dizdar says, it's going to be a butchering, meaning, or at least suggesting this, that they won't be using guns necessarily as much as perhaps using knives, axes, all this type of stuff. You say, man, that's kind of brutal, Bowler. It is, but you got to think about in some of these third world countries where they're not allowed to have guns. What do they use? Machetes, knives. Let me say this, and then I'm going to close. I think either yesterday or the day before yesterday, they were stating on the news that some man, and I can't remember, it might have been in Florida. I think it's in Florida. Some man from Haiti. Now, he wasn't a legal immigrant. He wasn't here illegally. He was here legally. He was a legal immigrant. But because I guess of certain beliefs that he had in his native land in Haiti, took a hammer and bashed a lady's face in until she died. Just kept bashing until she died. Bashed her skull in with a hammer. Now, how can you do that to someone? How can you take a hammer and I know this is graphic for this channel, but I got to tell you the truth. How can you take a hammer and bash someone's face in and skull in and just till they just die? Can you imagine the bloodshed? Can you imagine the gruesomeness of that scene? Now, imagine if during the tribulation period, guns are removed from people and they no longer can have guns. They can have knives, they can have axes, they can have machetes and other things, but they can't have guns. When peace is removed from the earth, represented by this rider on a red horse, because red means what? Symbolizes what? Bloodshed. Tim LaHaye says war, but it also symbolizes bloodshed on a global scale. Now imagine guns being removed from everyone, Americans, as well as people all over the world, but they're allowed to own axes and machetes and knives. When peace is removed from the earth, can you imagine what's going to happen? That's why it's important that people don't know Jesus Christ, their personal Savior, get to know him now. Don't wait till the tribulation period. This stuff is real. Bible prophecy is real. It's taking place right before our eyes. And we don't want to wait until it happens, till the tribulation period happens, and say, okay, man, I want to get right with God. I want to give my life to Christ. No, it's better do it now, because even though during the tribulation period, people will be getting saved in millions of people will be getting saved. They're also going to be hunted down by the Antichrist and slaughtered by the millions. You don't want to be in that. Why wait? Why wait till the tribulation period to get right with God? What sense does that make? Is that what you want to go through? Because some people will survive, but not many. You might not be the one to survive it. You might be the one that gets slaughtered. Just saying, people. Just saying. But I wanted to, so that's what we did. So we dealt with the white horse, and now we've dealt with the red horse of the seal judgments. Next week, we're going to be dealing with, the Lord say the same, we're going to be dealing with something we're dealing with another horse here, okay? So it's going to get deep. These judgments are going to get worse as they progress on. We're going to find out how bad these judgments going to get. Man, y'all, if you have never read the book of Revelation and never read any of these 21 judgments initiated by God, and you've never read them, the Lord say the same, we're going to get through these, and it's going to blow your mind. God is no one to be played with. He's no one to be played with. He's loving. He's kind. He gave his only begotten son. But let me tell you something. When it comes down to God pouring out his wrath on sin, as the book of Hebrews chapter 10, verse 31 says, it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of an angry God. But anyway, so the next seal judgment we're going to be dealing with is the rider on the black horse. The rider on the black horse. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, that's going to be a deep one. That's going to be a deep one right there too. And then we're going to be dealing with the rider on the pale horse. And that even gets rougher. And let me say this before I close. The rider on the red horse is believed by Tim LaHaye once again to be the initiator of war. However, many believe that the rider on the pale horse, the fourth rider, the pale horse rider, okay, is the one that initiates war. Okay, and not the rider on the red horse. And if that interpretation is true, that means the rider on the red horse is exactly what Rush Dizdar interprets it to be. That when peace is removed from the earth, the violence that we see committed by regular people will be upscaled 1,000%. You think it's bad now? It's going to be nothing doing the releasing of the rider on the red horse. But that's what I wanted to say right there. So let's be ready for next week if the Lord says the same. If you have any comments, leave a comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all, and see you again.